Got it, yes.
Yeah. All right.
The 14th time is the try.
All right, everyone, this is Stephen. And Stephen, why don't you just say cover some of your past accomplishments before you get started.
Yeah, anyway, currently I'm the, what is my title? I'm a hardware editor at the unofficial Apple weblog, or TWW.com. We are part of the AOL brands, which means we're associated with our, and what's the big site there? TechCrunch and some of the other big sites. But anyway, I've been an Apple geek since 1984, and at that time I got my first Mac, a 512K, back in December of '84, and have been working with them ever since. I have, let's see, I've written over 2 million words for over the last 6 years, and also have a couple of books on the market right now. One about Siri that's called Talking to Siri. It's now available in the 3rd edition. And another one on pitching to websites, and it's called Pitch Perfect, co-written with Erica Sadoun, who's also here in the Denver area. So that's a long introduction, but that's who I am.
Stephen, where are those books available? Is any of them with tidbits?
Well, the books are actually available both on Amazon Kindle and through iBooks. Talking to Siri was published by Q Books, QUE Books, which is part of Addison, Wesley, Pearson, that other corporate name there. And that's the same situation with Pitch Perfect as well. They can be both purchased through either iBooks or through Amazon Kindle. Or actually, they're in print form too. So if you go to a Barnes & Noble store, probably find them.
Okay, let's get rolling.
Okay. Basically, what I decided was that in order, because let's face it, live presentations never go wrong. So I thought what would be a much better idea is I put together a quickie slide deck, and I'm going to go through that. We've got a lot of screenshots, and the big thing about this is that should you need to get the instructions at several points here, I do show a special shortcut that I created for this, and it's on well, we'll see it here in a moment. So I'm going to try to go ahead and share the screen, and hopefully everything goes well. And if you can't hear me when I turn on the slideshow, let me know via email, because hopefully, I think we should be able to do this, but here we go. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to share a screen here. And George, it should be asking, there you go. Okay, and I'm hoping everybody can hear me. George, are you still there?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So that means I can just go ahead and we'll continue this. Anyway, this has been kind of a fun little article. Strangely enough, I wrote this last November, and for some strange reason, it still has, as we say in the blogging business, it's got legs. A lot of people are Comcast customers. It looks like after the Comcast and Time Warner merger that has been proposed, that there may be a lot more Comcast folks out there. And what this has to do with is setting up email so that it works very, very well with your all of your devices. In other words, you probably have seen a situation where you delete an email on an iPhone and you get back to your Mac and that email is still there. Or you delete an email on an iPad and you find that email is still available out there on your iPhone. So what that is essentially telling us is that Comcast is using what they call a POP3 server. Now, POP3 is probably still the most, I don't know what you want to call it, the most widely used setup for email at this point in the world. POP3 stands for Post Office Protocol version 3. What we want to get is IMAP, Internet Message Access Protocol. It's kind of a more modern way of accessing email servers. And unfortunately, like I said, POP3 is the standard Comcast email implementation. So you're probably asking yourself, at least I would be asking myself, so what's the difference between POP3 and IMAP? Well, good question. POP3 is really a much simpler protocol. It makes implementation easier. I mean, it's very easy for anybody to set up a POP3 server. In fact, most server software nowadays has built-in POP3 server, which means that anybody who's setting up a server for an office can almost immediately set up POP3 email server technology. Most Linux servers come with a standard POP3 server software. Just works great. So anyway, what PopMail does is that it moves the message from the email server onto your local computer. Now that computer can be a Mac, it can be an iPhone, it can be an iPad. Anyway, there's usually an option to leave the messages on the email server as well. And that ends up working the best for people with multiple devices, like most of us, I'm sure. You may have a Mac, excuse me, an iPad, and an iPhone. And so normally that's set up and leaves the messages on the email server. Now, IMAP is a little bit different. What it does is that it leaves the message on the email server and it downloads a local copy. POP treats the mailbox as one big store of email, and it really doesn't have much of a concept of folders. You can build folders to organize your email locally, but for the most part, if you think about folders being stored on a server, it really has no concept of that. So what an IMAP client, in other words, an email client like Mail on the Mac or Mail on your iPad or iPhone, an IMAP client performs some very complex queries. Normally what it'll do is when it's making a connection to the server, it says, hey, send me an email header. In other words, give me the information as to what the subject of the email is about, who it's from, and who it's been actually sent to. And then it can also ask that server for the full body of a specific message. You can also search for messages meeting certain criteria. The good thing about IMAP as well is that you can go in and you can mark these messages with various status flags, like you can say deleted or just flag it for further work at some other point. So you can have these status flags as well. And they will stay out in the repository on the server until they are explicitly removed by the user. Now, once the user goes in and says, hey, I've seen this junk mail before, I want to get rid of it, and they delete it, it's deleted from the server, which means that it is invisible from all the different devices. It's a little bit different from most POP3 implementations where if I am receiving an email on my iPhone and I look at it and I say, I really don't need to look at that junk mail. You delete it from there. You go over to your iPad, that message is still there. You have to delete it from that device. And you may go over to a Mac and delete it from that device as well. So what IMAP does is really makes life a lot easier in terms of handling multiple devices. So one of the other big deals is that the POP protocol requires the currently connected client to be the only client connected to the mailbox on the server. So on occasion, what you may see if you're using multiple devices with a POP3 account is that it may run into issues with getting the email from the server. You may come back with some sort of error message. Not a good thing to see. So IMAP specifically allows simultaneous access by a lot of different clients, and it provides mechanisms for clients to detect changes made to the mailbox by other clients. So in other words, I can go in, if I had my iPhone, iPad, and Mac sitting in front of me, and I had mail up on every one of those, I could go in, I could delete an email on one client, and within hopefully a few seconds, maybe a few minutes, depending on network conditions, I should see that email disappear on those other clients as well. So basically, when POP retrieves a message, it receives the entire thing. IMAP allows clients or email clients to retrieve any of the various little parts. So it can receive just the text for a message without retrieving any attached files. Now, where you really see this difference is with something like a iPad or iPhone running iOS 7, where you'll get an email and you can see the attachment, but it doesn't necessarily download that part of the message until you click on it. So somebody sends you, let's say, this document, this keynote presentation. You'll get that keynote presentation as an attachment, but it doesn't actually download it until you tap on it, and then it starts retrieving that from the server. Finally, IMAP supports those flags on the server. Like I said a little bit earlier, kind of keeps track of the message state. So if I, once again, have all my devices sitting in front of me and they're all showing the little blue dot that indicates that the message is unread, if I read it on one device, that message unread indicator, the little blue dot, is going to disappear when I read it on one device, and it'll disappear on the other devices as well. Likewise, if I do a reply, for instance in mail.app on the Mac, I get a little indicator that shows that it's been replied to, a little kind of an arrow pointing off to the left. That indicator also shows up on other devices, so iPad and iPhone as well. So the bottom line on this, kind of taking all those slides and putting it into one slide, IMAP really works better for multi-device situations. You delete on one device, it's deleted everywhere. You mark something on one device, it's marked everywhere. IMAP is also better for those mobile situations where you have really kind of limited resources. I mean, even though our devices like iPhones and iPads have a ton of storage available, they still have limited RAM. And so this just works a little bit better in that it's not pulling down a complete email and all attachments and everything else at the same time. Last but not least, the reason a lot of companies go with POP3 instead of IMAP is that it requires fewer server resources, and server software is just freely available. So it's very inexpensive for most internet service providers to run in there. So long story short, or actually I made a short story very long, let's go to talking about switching to Comcast IMAP. Now, the funny thing is that even though as a Comcast customer you may go in and get an email account, generally what they're going to do is give you a POP3 account. That's their standard, that's their default, and pretty much everybody ends up with that. And if you want to move that account into the future, so to speak, and get it set up on a Comcast IMAP server, they really kind of hide this information from you. So I did a little research last November, like I said, and found out that it is possible to do it. And that was when I wrote this article for TUA that has been so popular. Now, rather than go to a real long URL or web address, I created a shortcut, and really all you need to do is point your web browser to bit.ly, that's bit.ly, so bit.ly/Comcast IMAP, all lowercase. And that's really the only thing you need to remember from this entire presentation. Hopefully you'll remember more, but that's probably the big thing to remember if you want the instructions for both OS 10 and for iOS. That's where that article is located. So what I'll do now is just kind of go through the process that is covered in that article. And like I said, instead of doing a actual live demonstration and possibly running into issues, we never run into technical issues at all, never. But I thought I would just grab some screenshots and we'll put those out here, and I'll kind of describe what's going on as we go through this. So starting off, the first step is that we actually have to request something from Comcast. We have to request that we be put onto an IMAP server. And the good thing about this is you don't have to call Comcast, even though they do have some pretty good help desk people. You don't have to call anybody to do this. You can just go to this specific web page, xcsignup.comcast.net/onboardingapps/IMAP. And you do have to know your Comcast.net login, because this is actually behind their security. So you will have to be logged in, and then you go to this URL and you get it's kind of a nice little screen. Basically what it asks you to do is register, and then you kind of go on from there. So let's try this all with iOS 7 first. Now, like I said, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to that web page on the Comcast website. And it's a little bit blurry there, but anyway, what it does is it just asks you to sign in to your Xfinity or Comcast user ID that you want to use with IMAP. And it says, upon successful log or sign in, your Comcast username will be registered for migration to one of our new servers. Your email will have all the same great features that you've come to know and love, with the bonus of the ability to access your email via IMAP. Within 24 hours of your request, a confirmation email will be sent to your Comcast email address to inform you when IMAP has been enabled on for your account. At this time, then you can go set up IMAP with your favorite email application. And it is pretty easy. For instance, what I would do is I've got a Comcast an account that's Stephen Sande at Comcast.net. I'd put that in as the username. I would put in my password. It'll ask me for my home state. I think they try to get you the closest email server. And then you click submit. And really the next thing you do is just wait for the email. Now for me, I was really kind of surprised because they said within 24 hours of your request this will happen. The email actually came literally within about an hour. Now I've talked to some other people who have done this and they've said, it took about a day and I finally got the email from them. So it can vary all over the map. So now we're going to go to an iOS 7 device. In this particular case, it's a iPad, and we're going to start setting up an account. Now, the reason we have to kind of do this, we need a little, well, actually creating a fake email account and then making the device believe that we're connecting to this fake server and then switching it over to the Comcast server, is because Apple tries to make things very, very easy for us, and sometimes that doesn't work out all that well. What I mean by that is if I go in and I try to set up a email account to a Comcast.net server, the mail application, both on iOS 7 and OS 10, is so smart that it says, you're connecting to Comcast, I guess you want a POP3 account, which is exactly what we don't want. So I kind of found out that we have to go in and fake it out a little bit. So that's the hard part, and that's what we're going to be looking at here. So what I do at this point is sit down with iOS 7 on either my iPhone or my iPad, and I go into settings, scroll down through the list of settings to mail, contacts, and calendars, and then I want to add a new account. And usually what it'll do is list my existing accounts. There you see I've got iCloud, then I've got something called Steve, that's a Gmail account, and I would just tap on Add Account. Now, like I said, it's going to try to set up a POP3 account, so we're going to need to fake it out. What I ended up doing was just using some garbage characters. I had lkjklkj.net as my fake domain name. You may find that you throw in a fake domain name and it actually exists, in which case you might want to try something else. But in this particular case, I just used a fake server name. So what I did is it comes up with this little new account screen. And once again, I apologize for this being a little bit blurry. But I put in my name, and it'll ask for name, my email address, the password that I want to go to, and then a description of that account. So when I have a list of email accounts that I'm connecting to, I know which one I'm actually talking to at any particular point in time. So in this case, I put in my name, Steve Sande. I put in this fake email address, stevensandy@lkjklkj.net. Like I said, you can pretty much use anything as long as it's complete garbage. And then you put in your password. And what I do here is I put in my correct password for my Comcast IMAP account. So whatever that Xfinity Comcast password happens to be, that's what I'm going to put in that spot. Of course, it fills it in with dots so that somebody looking over my shoulder is not going to be able to see that. So the next step is that we're going to go in and we're going to fill in the actual information for that account. And basically how we're going to do this is, like I said, we're going to go in and we're going to enter that, fake, our name, our fake email account, our password, and the account name. You tap next and it's going to come up with this new account screen. So first thing we're going to have or want to do is make sure that it's showing IMAP as the account type, and then we're going to replace that fake domain name with Comcast.net, which is the standard for their email. So I'm going to go in, and you'll notice I kind of blanked out my real email there, but name, is still Steve Sande. I go in and I edit that email there, and I tell everybody that I put in my actual email account at Comcast.net. Still has the description Comcast IMAP. Then under incoming mail server, I erase what's in there, which is probably going to be pop or pop3.comcast.net, and I'm going to replace that with IMAP, IMAP.comcast.net. I'll put in my username, which is the first part of my email address. In other words, I don't have to type in, Stephen Sande at Comcast.net. Instead, I just type in Stephen Sande. And then it should have my password already stored from where I entered it earlier. Likewise, I do the same for the outgoing mail server. Here, if it shows anything else, just go in and make sure that you change that to smpp.comcast.net. You put in your username and you put in your password. Now, when you tap the next link that's up in the upper right-hand corner of that iOS 7 window there, what it's going to do is it's going to try to verify your account. And if it does verify that at that particular point in time, and sometimes it will, sometimes it won't, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But what you will get to do is it'll say, well, which accounts do you want to synchronize with Comcast.net? And when I was trying to log this in on my iPad and iPhone, it suggested mail and notes. So apparently it could synchronize notes as well. Well, I really, really, really didn't want to do that. So what I decided to do instead was to go ahead and, I'm sorry, I just got an email or a message there and it just totally threw me off. Sorry about that. Anyway, I just synced mail, turned off notes, and then tapped save. Now, the next thing you're going to see is this. We're going to see the Comcast IMAP account in our list of email accounts. We're really not done yet. So what we want to do is make sure that our settings are really correct for the Comcast server. So we tap on the Comcast IMAP account that we just created over on that Mail Contacts Calendar page, and then tap on the IMAP account listing, and we get account details that look like this. We want to tap on where it says smpp.comcast.net under outgoing mail server, tap on it again under primary server, and then we're going to get this screen like this, where it says smpp.comcast.net. It shows that we've got the server on. It shows that we have a outgoing mail server, smpp.comcast.net, our username, our password. But the big thing here is we want to make sure that we have SSL, use SSL, turned on. And the way you can tell is that we have that switch off to the right of where it says use SSL. That switch needs to be green or turned on. If you have it turned off, it's going to be white. Authentication for this server is password authentication, which means that it sends your password to the server and authenticates you before it's able to actually send an email. And last but not least, we want to make sure that that server port down on the bottom there is set to 465. And we tap done. The other thing we need to do, just once again to make sure everything's going to work properly, is go to the advanced account data screen. We're going to look at some of the other settings there. You can do things like move started messages into a deleted mailbox, or you can put them in an archive so they're searchable. I prefer just to delete them. Deleted messages, I told it to remove those after 1 week on the server. And you can actually tell it, do that immediately, do it after 1 week, after 1 month, or never. So you have a choice there. I prefer just to get rid of them so that there's not a lot of old email messages sitting out on the server. So what do we want to check here? We want to really make sure, once again, that use SSL is enabled. Once again, the switch is green. Authentication is set for password. IMAP path prefix, it'll normally just put that in there by default as a backslash. But we want to make sure that server port 993 is entered. Okay, and at that point, you should be able, once you've set that up on your OS 10, or excuse me, your iOS 7 device, you should be able to go in and pretty much send and receive emails. And usually what I do is I'll send an email off to another email account if you've got one, or just send an email off to a friend or loved one and have them respond to you to make sure that you're both able to send and receive from that email account. So now, quickly, and now that you kind of have an idea of the process of baking out the mail software so that it knows that, or it wants to set you up with an IMAP account instead of a POP3 account, we're going to do the same thing on OS 10 Mavericks. And if you're running one of the older versions of OS 10, it's pretty much identical in terms of the way, probably all the way back to 10.7 in terms of the way that you set up the account. Now to add a new account, you'll see here I'm in the, I'm trying to think of the name of it, preferences for email, or for the mail app. And I've clicked on accounts, and I have several email accounts here. I'm showing iCloud, Gmail, for Macs is another Google account. I've got another one, another Google IMAP account, another Google IMAP account called To Us Steve. But I want to add a new account for Comcast. So I click on that plus sign that you see down in the corner there under that list of accounts. And yeah, I do have way too many email accounts. I'm going to try to get rid of some of those one of these days. So I click on the plus, and really what the process that we go through is the same type of thing. It's going to ask me right off the bat what kind of account, excuse me, what kind of mail server I'm attaching to. So in this case, I'm going to go in and click on IMAP. I can type in imap.comcast.net. I can put in my username. I can put in my password. I can click next. I could do pretty much the same type of thing for my outgoing mail server information as well. And I'm going to go ahead and create this. And now, what's probably going to happen, well, that's how I would actually create a Comcast.net. I should have pointed out that you do want to put in kind of a fake account information once again. In this case, I'm doing it lfs.net. I tell it to enable the account. I make sure that it's going to imap.comcast.net. Put in my Comcast email username, and I put in my password. And then I'll go in and edit that information to make sure that I've got the real account information in there instead of lfs.net. So here I've got Comcast IMAP as the description of my account. I put in my actual email address with the @comcast.net domain information, my full name, and for incoming mail server, I'm sure I've got imap.comcast.net, my username, my password. I can go to the Advanced tab on this particular screen, and it's going to show me some additional information for the incoming server. So here what I have is IMAP path prefix, I would just leave it blank. But you may have to change the port number. Once again, that needs to be port 993 for Comcast. And you also need to make sure that that use SSL checkbox there has a check in there, and that authentication is set up for password. Pretty much everything else that you have there, the various other check marks, are there by default. I would just go ahead and leave them alone, just so nothing may get goofed up. Now, you can also, on that same advanced list, you can take a look at the outgoing server settings. In this particular case, you see that I've got both a kind of that fake account item up there, server Comcast.net, in use by account Stephen Sande at lfs.net. I actually want to go to the next item there, Comcast.net, smt.comcast.net. Just click on that. I want to look at the advanced tab down below. Make sure that it's using custom port 465. That use secure sockets layer is checked. Authentication set up for password. My username for my Comcast account is entered in there, and then I have my password set up as well. Click OK. Once again, it's going to go through and try to make sure that everything's working properly. If it comes back looking fine, then give it a test. Send an email to, and once again, either another email account. If you happen to have also a iCloud account, iCloud.com, Mac.com, or me.com, go ahead and send a message off to that. See if it shows up. That tells you that everything's sending properly. And then reply to it back to the Comcast.net account, and chances are very good that that will work as well, that it will be able to receive that email. So the next and kind of the final thing that you need to remember here is you don't have, hopefully nobody was sitting there quickly writing a bunch of notes about this or trying to record this information, because once again, it is available online at bit.ly/Comcast IMAP. And you can just pull up those instructions, and hopefully they make a little bit more sense than I have this morning. And at that point, I think hopefully we'll be able to get our camera back here.
Okay, we're back. That was a great presentation. By the way, I have sent, with the announcement of the meeting, there was a URL on the announcement that will also work. It was the longer version. And also, I am making a video of the meeting, and I had forgotten to ask you, is that okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And so I'll send you the video of the meeting if you're on the discussion group, so you'll also have a review of the meeting that you can go back to. Are there any questions? Jerry?
Has Comcast changed the amount of storage available on an IMAP account as opposed to POP3? If I remember, Comcast has a limited amount of storage on their server.
That is a good question, and to be honest with you, I don't know. They are somewhat close-mouthed about their email servers. When I was researching the information for the post that I wrote, I ended up calling Comcast just to find out, and to be honest with you, I talked to 3 people and nobody could give me an answer as to whether or not that would be increased, remain the same, or decreased. My gut feeling is that it is probably increased, but not to whatever size you want. But I have talked to several people who have moved over to the IMAP accounts, and they said that they're no longer receiving a lot of the messages saying, hey, you've got too much out here, please clean out your mailbox. So hopefully that's a good sign.
What else, Jerry?
Second question.
Wait a minute. Go ahead.
Traditionally, Apple Mail has had trouble logging into Comcast POP accounts. We have a lot of members who find that you get a lot of timing issues between the client trying to talk to the server. Is there any indication that has changed with the IMAP server?
Well, I find that I still, on occasion, will see the Comcast server timeout. And to be honest with you, I really, once again, have no idea why it does that. However, compared to POP3, much better uptime, so to speak, with it. But I will see certain points during the day where the Comcast IMAP server, especially in OS 7, it'll just come up with that little indicator that the server is unavailable at that point in time. Usually within another 10 to 15 minutes it'll come back up. I have a funny feeling that it has something to do with the way that maybe Comcast has their server set up so that they're not overwhelmed by requests all the time. If we could, I honestly wish we could get a Comcast email engineer online so we could talk to him about this. But once again, long answer, but yeah, I say the service definitely is better. I don't see as many dropouts as I did before. How about you, George?
I haven't set it up yet.
Uh-oh, I'm sorry I didn't hear that word.
I haven't set the IMAP up yet.
Shame on you.
But I will as soon as we head out of here today. I will try it, and if we can get feedback from our folks, I'd appreciate it.
That would be good. Yeah, we get a lot of comments, like I said, still on that article that was originally written back in November. Here we are, 5 months later, and that's still an extremely popular post. I think for a lot of people, it ended up resolving that horrible issue where you delete on one device and then you have to delete on another and another. I mean, if you're a total geek like myself, you end up with POP accounts like that, deleting the same email on 3 devices. Now you just do it once. Life is good. That's my main reason for having wanted or wanting to do that.
Can you give the site once more again? I tried to go on to Bitly and it wouldn't pull up on my iPad.
Say that louder.
Would you give the site, your Bitly site once more, the reference to?
Sure, it's bit dot, yeah, so bit dot ly / Comcast IMAP, and that's all one word, all lowercase.
Okay, that was a mistake. Thank you.
Peggy, do you have a question? You had your arm up before. Bridget.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what kind of router we have?
Wait a second. Say that again.
This is Bridget. 2 questions. Does it matter what kind of router we have, and do we have to start with the iDevice or the computer device?
Good questions, both of them. First of all, no, it doesn't matter which device you set it up on first. I actually, if I remember correctly, I think I did mine on OS 10 first, and then iOS 7. Really doesn't make any difference on that. The big thing is making sure that the folks at Comcast have migrated all of your email information over to their IMAP server. And let's see, that was the first part of the question. What was the second part?
The second part was...
Oh, about the router.
Yeah, router.
Yeah, the router doesn't make any difference unless by some chance the router actually has a port block, but generally most of the routers and firewalls that we have open up to the standard ports like 993 and 465, the rest of them, so shouldn't have any issues with the router.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, back here.
Am I flipped on, George?
Yes.
I have 3 questions. 2 of them are short. Number 1, if you trash an item from your iOS device and say you want to retrieve it on your laptop later, can you, or can you only access it through your iOS device?
Let's take one question at a time, so none of us have a memory issue.
Okay.
And I certainly do. Okay, the answer on that one is as long as you don't delete it on the first device that you're reading that email. For instance, let's say I get it on my iPhone, pull out my iPhone, I'm looking at it, and I see this email and I say, oh man, I really need to respond to that from my Mac because that's where I've got the information. As long as you don't delete it on that iPhone, it's going to stay on any and all devices out there. So you can go back to your Mac or pick up your iPad later, and sure enough, that email is still going to be there. Once you have done something to it, for instance, flagged it or deleted it or done something like that, or maybe marked it again as unread, it's once again going to be reflected on all the devices.
Okay, I'm not clear.
Go ahead.
I'm not clear if you're using the word delete in the sense of putting it into the trash.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry. I tend to always think of hitting the delete key, so but yeah, in putting it into the trash.
Okay, so the second question is, do I have to?
Go ahead.
Do I have to do all of my iOS devices, or does doing one iOS device take care of my iPad as well?
And that was a very good question once again. And unfortunately, even though allegedly iCloud is supposed to go in and do magic with synchronizing all your devices and all your email accounts, you do end up having to set it up separately on each iOS 7 device and on each OS 10 device as well. So I wish you could just add an account, IMAP account, change it over on one device and have it magically appear on all of them, but at this point in time, no, you do have to set them up separately.
Thank you. And the third question is, about 90% of my emails, if I delete in one place, I want them gone in the others. But about 10% I want to leave on my laptop, but have them gone from my iOS devices. With this, will I not be able to do that?
That is correct. If you say, well, I want it on my laptop, but I don't want it on my iPhone and my iPad, you are indeed going to see it on your iPhone and iPad. Once again, it's setting up IMAP. It's looking at the server and what's available on the server. So if that message is available on OS 10, it's going to be available on the iOS 7 devices. What I've seen people do as a result of that is they will create a folder for the Comcast IMAP account, and they'll just put certain messages that they want to work with at some later date. They'll put them into that folder, so it kind of gets them out of the way. It kind of gets it out of the main flow of email messages that are coming in, but you still have it available.
Good idea, thanks.
Missy?
Barb?
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, you
We're,
can hear us, right?
You bet.
we're being switched from Comcast by the end of the month, by the end of next month, to Hotwire. does it make sense for me to set up an IMAP account at this point? Will that work with Hotwire?
I would definitely recommend not making the change. And chances are pretty good. What I would do, if you're going over to this new, or to Hotwire, to this new internet service provider, I would definitely make sure that you ask them about the availability of IMAP service. One other thing that you can do as well, some ISPs will actually provide you with a Microsoft Exchange account, which is essentially almost like a superset of IMAP. If you can get an Exchange account, that once again works very, very well. But at that point, if you've got just 1 month left on Comcast, I wouldn't say it's really worthwhile.
Thank you.
Jerry.
George has been fabulous at arranging video conferences with people like you. I'm an extremely good quality video today. I was wondering what computer you're running on, what its performance is, because we have had breakup with prior people who have had beards, and I expected us to have problems today because of the pixelization when you moved your beard, and it is not happening. So, so I was wondering what there might be a difference between the computer that you're using versus our presenter last week.
What I'm using is a late 2012 iMac 27-inch with, I can't remember the speed, but it's got the Core i7 processor and 16 gigs of RAM. So this guy is pretty well loaded for bear. And, not the fastest thing out there, you know. Can't afford a Mac Pro, but it works pretty well. We do a weekly show, by the way, and I'll kind of put out a plug for it right now. Every Wednesday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, if you go out to the tuaw.com website, you'll see a post out there talking about Tuaw TV Live. And myself and one of my co-bloggers who's actually lives in Hawaii do this weekly show where we talk about subjects and we bring up our favorite apps and our favorite hardware of the week and talk about problems and news and all sorts of stuff like that. And frankly, you know, prior to getting this specific machine, I know we did have some major problems with breakups. We will still see that on occasion when we're doing the show, simply because we're actually doing a Skype phone call at the same time that we're sending the stream of video out to YouTube. So sometimes that'll goof things up, but for the most part, this machine just really chews up that video and sends it out nicely. So thanks.
Well, thank you.
So that's, are we really saying then it's his machine? That's the difference, probably.
All right.
Well, and I've also got a really fast Comcast connection.
When you say you have a fast Comcast connection, what is it that you have?
Well, I'm using, in the house for Wi-Fi, this device is connected via Wi-Fi. I'm using the 802.11, whatever the latest is, not AC, but the one before that, 802.11G router. I think it's G. They keep changing this on me. What can I say? But anyway, I've got a fairly fast router, but the connection, the internet connection, is actually, I know when we're streaming, it's probably doing about 5 megabits per second, which for streaming video is pretty good. The downstream connection is what's really fast, but anyway, the up anywhere from 5 to 10 megabits per second, and it really does a decent job with streaming.
Jerry, how does that compare with what we have here?
We have the same bandwidth here. We have about 50 megabits down, and we have about 10 up in this facility. So I don't think, it isn't the bandwidth. I think it is the processor differences on how well the remote computer can digitize and compress it and turn it into H.264 to go over the network.
Cool.
We have another question from Marcia.
Okay, do you have a podcast of that show that you do every week?
Yes, we do. Well, actually, we have a YouTube channel. Unfortunately, I can't remember the address for it right now, but if you go out and do a search on YouTube for TUAW, what it will do is bring you to our kind of homepage for the unofficial Apple weblog, and you'll see that there's a series listed on there for TUA TV Live, so you can look at it that way. And it should also be available through iTunes as a podcast. To be honest with you, I'm going to go out and look right now because sometimes I'm not sure. Let's see if it's been updating here. Let's see here. Well, I'll just check this because and it, well, let's see. Unfortunately, it's starting back in 2013, so I'm not sure that it's maybe it's downloading everything that we've ever done there. But definitely go into iTunes, look for TUAW. You'll see a couple other podcasts. There's a short news one that we do every day called the TUA Daily Update. That is available through the podcasts channel, so to speak, on iTunes. We also generally will have our TUA Talkcast, which is Sunday night, 10 p.m. It's audio only, but it's an audience participation type thing that's a lot of fun. And then we've got the TUA TV Live on Wednesdays.
Any other questions?
Would that also be on the Apple TV under podcasts?
I haven't tried that. I've got an Apple TV, and I'm one of those horrible people who doesn't watch all that much TV, so I haven't really tried it. But I would think if it's available through the through iTunes, you should definitely be able to get to it through Apple TV and the podcasts button.
Thank you.
That could be a good question for your meeting. Yes.
I hope I can come up with a good answer.
Any other questions? Thank you very, very much.
Well, thanks for George for getting everything set up, and if you see some other articles in the future that you say, wow, we ought to have Steve talk about that, definitely keep me in mind. I'm always, I work out of this office in my home and always willing to share information, so just let me know.